Welcome everyone to another amazing episode of Living Your Purpose. My name is SJ from Inner Soul Development. That's right, Inner Soul Development. I am a personal life coach, transformational speaker, and what I do is I get you off your autopilot, take you off course to your greatest self. I make sure you understand that life is to be controlled, and it's amazing once you control it, and that life should not control you. Okay, we do this every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, like clockwork. We're always here, no matter what it is, NBA draft, no matter what's going on, we're going to have the show. Okay, but without this person on the side of me, it would be no show. So I want to introduce my co-host, the lovely and talented.
Hey everybody, my name is Danielle K. Anderson, also known as Danielle the VP. I am an entrepreneur, interfaith minister, spiritual counselor, life coach, and speaker, and it is my purpose to help people to look good, feel good, find, and walk in their own purpose. And I am so grateful for all of you to being here. If you are live, if you are listening or watching on a replay on SoundCloud or YouTube, thank you all so much. Don't forget to subscribe if you like it. Push the button that says so, and make sure you comment because we love to get feedback from you guys. Thank you,
Yes.
SJ. You always flatter me so much when we're opening. I'm like,
It's
I guess
the truth.
Who, me? What? Okay.
I can only be transparent. That's it.
But I do appreciate it. And so today is Father's Day in the U.S. This is June 19th of 2016, and we are celebrating dads and dad-type people and father figures, grandfathers, uncles, coaches, mentors, positive male figures that have helped to shape your life. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to express how we feel. Some of us maybe didn't have a dad growing up in our house, but still had somebody that was influential in your development. Some people may have had a dad, but they weren't the best. And that helped to shape them and their decision-making as they became older. Some of us were lucky to have our dad and maybe lost them early. We can talk about any and all of these things, but it's basically giving honor to those men who helped to shape who we are.
Right. And men are, you got to understand, men are influential, essential in every facet of a person's life. That's why, we talk about dads, we talk about, how important they are to us, but without that figure, without that blueprint, something that we could look toward, is pretty much a void if we don't have it. I was the one that actually had my dad, but of course he left early, so I was one of those victims who, I would say victim, I wouldn't say that, but I was just one of those people who wasn't able to know my dad as much as anybody else would, because my dad wasn't ready to be a dad at that time. And I grew up earlier. As I grew up and, you get older, you realize that he wasn't ready to be that or be put in that position. Okay. But as I grew older, I got more connected with him later on in life. And, we're just starting to build that type of foundation. But, once you get older, I just, the hurt or the bitterness or that transpired kind of left once I understood his position and where he was. And, I forgive him. I understand where it was. He was young when he got married. And so, he wasn't really ready to have a bunch of kids at the time. And, he did his best as he could, but at the time he had to, he had to leave. He felt it was his choice to leave. And so we may have that situation, but whatever he gave me during the time that he was there, I remember, and I take and I hold that dear to me. And so it allows me to be the kind of person I am, and filter all the negative out and just posture on the positive.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say I was a daddy's girl, but of my sisters and our parents, I was the one that was closer to dad. And
you look more like him.
You think so?
Oh my God, he spit you out. All you needed was a wig, and that was Danielle.
Oh no, you didn't see. You haven't seen my mom then. Trust me. But my sister actually looks more like my dad, and I look more like my mom. But I have all his ways. let's say he taught me a lot of things that most dads don't teach little girls. But he actually didn't have any sons, so. And I was his firstborn. So the stuff he worked in construction and maintenance and things like that. So I learned very young the difference between a flathead and a Phillips head screwdriver. I learned I learned how to lay down tile and all that type of stuff, like from my dad, and just to fix certain things. And his position was, if you're going to be, you want to know how to do certain things. You don't always want to depend on somebody else to help you take care of these things. So if something goes wrong, you don't want to pay all this money for a plumber or wait around for some guy to come and fix it. And he taught me a lot about, through his experiences. My dad talked a whole lot. I think that's where I get it from too. He went through a lot growing up as a child, and then in his adult life. He even taught me how to deal cards. He helped me how to cheat at cards and dice, and taught me not to do those things.
Right.
So, it's a lot of lessons that have been taught to me by my dad, and unfortunately I did lose him in 2006, 10 years this February. And it still hurts. You know, time passes and it gets easier to deal with, but it never doesn't hurt. You know, I love my dad so much. I missed him so much, and I'm grateful. Even though he was crazy, he was wacky, he wasn't perfect, but and we had our falling out sometimes, but that's still my daddy, you know. And he taught me a lot about being a good person, about self-respect, about presentation, about integrity in your work, hustle, all of those things. You know, it may take you a little bit longer, it might cost a little bit more, but you do it right the first time, right?
I agree.
So
I agree.
And
I
and
agree.
that meant a whole lot. It meant a whole lot, and I carry that with me always. So I'm really, really. And I had some other positive family members. Like my grandfather was a really awesome guy, but yeah, basically that's me sharing my dad. I'm really blessed to have been able to have my dad around. My parents were married, you know, till they passed, and so so I was blessed, because a lot of people who grew up in my area, you know, during the time that we didn't have that, and a lot of people still they don't have that, and they're not in the position that I was, and I really am glad that I had that experience with my dad. Join us in the love seat, and share your experiences of maybe your father, maybe if it wasn't your father that you had that influenced you, a grandfather, an uncle, a teacher, a coach, anybody like that, any positive role models that you've had in your life, and the experiences that you had that shaped you for the better. You know what? Actually, when we posted on Facebook earlier, one of our community members said he didn't have his father, and he did, but he wasn't around very much, and he didn't have the best example of a man to follow. So he took that and flipped it, and now he's like completely opposite of what he got, so that he could be a better father to his son. And I appreciate
absolutely
that, because a lot of times
when my dad was around, I do remember some good times. You know, he taught me how to play basketball. You know, so but you know, when he did leave when I was young, my mother was my father after a while.
Right.
And she basically took on the father role at that point. But it was stressful for her because she had boys in the house, so she really didn't know how to properly take care of or train young boys to become men. So
Right.
it's a difficult situation. But I still appreciate what he did leave, but I'm also very much appreciative of my mom being that void or trying to fill that void for her three kids. And
Right.
being a single parent was difficult.
Right. Hi, Sterling. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Well, thank you. I was gonna say welcome.
Very good.
How are you all
Good,
today?
good.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Oh, you're welcome. I've been listening in, and this is awesome. I always see it pop up in my newsfeed. I never have the time to jump on, so I'm happy today. I have a little window of time
Oh,
to
Good,
jump
fantastic.
good,
on.
Well, we're
good,
so
good.
happy to have you. So, what do you have to share for the topic this evening?
Well, I just love and adore my father. I thank God for him every day because I'm the youngest of 15 children,
Wow.
and and every day I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh my God, I look just like him. I look like I look like my dad with hair, but I'm really am grateful for him because he has such a strong. His story is just awesome, but he has such a strong influence in our community outside of our family as
Hi,
well.
Uh,
Hi, Simon. How are you?
how's it? Hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
yes.
Cool. This is a great blab, very positive, right?
Oh,
Like,
thanks.
I'll tell you my own story if
Okay.
you want.
Yes, please.
Well,
Okay.
my dad, right? Now, I'm not going to get on a soapbox about my dad or whatever, right? My dad died last year. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is, I can tell you now, I learned that my dad was ill, I was very upset. But one of the things that I had to remember was that I was incredibly lucky for the fact that I mean, when I grew up in school, right, I was one of the few people that grew up where their dad was still there in the family, like together with my mum. You know,
Right.
most of my friends either didn't know their dad or they saw their dad very little,
Right.
right?
Sure. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the legacy that having a dad left on me, I felt privileged to have had a dad around. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, like, it's so important to tell fathers or prospective fathers don't abandon their children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
And
You.
but it's it's tough, right? I mean, I have got a woman pregnant recently, right? It's someone who I was in an on and off relationship for years, and I feel gutted about this, right? Because I know I'm going to end up being a deadbeat dad or something, right? Just because we're not together anymore. I'm not bonded. Like, I should be bonding with the unborn child already, right? You know, if
Right.
we were a couple, I'd be sitting there like rubbing the bump and that, like, you know, she's bonding with the child. I'm not bonding with the child, and this is what happens now so much, right? This is why it's hard for fathers to sometimes. It's easy. It's impossible for the mother to reject the child, right? She carries it for 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to impede on this blab anyway.
Certainly not. That's why we're here. Listen, Simon. You not being with the baby's mom does not make you a deadbeat. As
But
long
I'm
as
gonna
you,
be. I feel
it's a
terrible about
choice.
it. You know, I'm in
It's a
such a
choice.
different position. Sorry, go on.
It's all right. To be or not to be in your child's life is a choice. It's a choice. Um, you have to decide. It's just like you said. you have to not abandon. I don't believe that you would abandon your child, but you have to make it known that you want to be present in that child's life and provide for them whatever and however you can. To be a deadbeat means you're not there, you're not around, you don't do much of anything. You know, you see them when you see them. You know, what is important right now is that you and her have some kind of an understanding that you want to be around for the baby, whether you're with her or not, but that's still your baby, and you want to be able to help and support her while she's carrying the baby and while she's raising them. So, I mean, if you're not going to be there all the time, that's, things happen. Mom and dad, sometimes they don't belong together, and it's better for the baby if they recognize that. But you still have to.
But I feel so guilty about that. I feel really severely guilty about that, because I know I cannot match up to the father that my dad was to me. I'm not in the position in life, really. I'm not really ready for a baby. You know what I mean? My dad had achieved a lot more than I had by my time in life. Do you know what I mean? And I just feel sorry for the kid already.
It's time for a perspective shift. You don't have to be your dad. If you had a great example of a father, then that's good. You take what you learned from him and use it to the best of your ability. Your ability and your willingness to provide is yours only. It's not, you can't hold yourself to anybody else's standards. All you have to do is be the best that you can be. I have 5 children, okay, and I was nowhere near where I ought to have been before I started having kids and kept having kids. But they're still my kids. You know what I mean? I don't just give up on my children. Our situation with how our family grows is very different from most. But my kids still know who their mom is. My kids still know who their dads are. My kids know that I'm there for them. And whatever I can do, I do. And the same with their fathers. Whatever I can do, I do. And I do everything that I do for them. So you can't feel guilty about not being able to live up to a standard. You have to set a standard. Because right now it sounds like you've given up already. And I won't have that. You're too nice to get.
Right. And not only that, but, and I agree 100% with Danielle, you have a choice. You have a choice to be able to take what your father instilled in you, and take that and use that toward the child that you're having right now. I mean, to be a deadbeat, that's a choice within your mind. You're saying, you know what, I'm done. That's a choice. But you could take that and flip it and say, you know what, I'm going to make a better choice, and I'm going to show this child what it is to be a father like my father taught me how to be. So it's all about a choice. You have the choice to be able to do those things and make it real for the individual. I mean, like I said, you don't necessarily have to be with the child's father. I mean, you don't have to be with the baby's mother at all. You don't really have to be. They're two separate. So you can definitely love the child without having a relationship with the mother of the child.
A romantic relationship with them.
Exactly.
There has to be one of respect, definitely, and an understanding that your interactions are for the best interest of the kid. You know, you don't hear this on the woman's side a lot, but I've been blessed to have some really great dads that get along with each other. They get along with me. They get along with each other's kids. There's no spite, no hate or anything like that. But it's because even though our relationships didn't work out, no matter what we went through, one-on-one, at the end of the day, because we have these children, we're family. And that's the most important thing, is to maintain an understanding of that we are all family, we're all connected. So if you can make sure that you nurture that parental relationship with the kid's mom, then
thanks very much. Those are very kind and encouraging words, honestly. Thank you. Yeah,
you're very, very welcome. We're here to help. That's why we're here. That's what we do. Thank you so much, Simon, for coming. I'm glad that you came on. I really am. Stay connected. We have more cool stuff. We have one more person that's trying to come in. And so, give us a second.
Hey,
Carla. Hey, sorry for the wait. You're outside.
Carla. Oh, I'm getting out now. I'm allowed.
You're allowed.
I'm actually sitting at the pool.
That's
and
nice.
I need to go in because the dog walker is coming soon. But I wanted to give you a daddy story.
Okay.
I was very fortunate. I had a dad who was actually a very well-known and very well-respected orthodontist in Philadelphia. And just to say something about it, when he had his funeral, we had standing room only. And they had to shut down the receiving line because it was way past the funeral and they had another funeral going on.
Wow.
So
Wow.
he was
That says a lot.
Excuse me?
It says a lot about the type of person he was.
Yeah, he was a great guy who loves to smile, and he had twinkly blue eyes, and I remember that very clearly. But I really think the Giggle Fest started with him.
Yeah.
Of course, I was told to do it by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar of the Art of Living Foundation, but my father used to love to laugh, even in some of those crazy patient situations, because I worked for him for a year. We all did for a year. Never would do it again, but I did it. But the story goes, when he was dying, I went down to see him in Florida because my parents moved to Florida. And one day I was sitting there with sitting in my father's room with my mom, and my mom all of a sudden said, "You know, Carla's going around making people laugh." Have I told this story?
No.
Maybe. And my mom thought it was kind of weird. And my dad looked at me and said, "Okay, then make us laugh, Carla." And I said, "Well, we're going to do more of a meditation, but yeah, I will." And I didn't know, it was kind of strange because my father really got into it, but he was also at a situation where he couldn't really give out a lot. So I knew what to look for. And of course, my mom didn't know. And it did look, if you didn't know what to look for, then maybe he would die laughing during that time. It really, I mean, it's funny now, but at the time I was like, oh my God, should I continue or should I stop or what should I do?
Sure.
Wow.
I did limit the laughter quite a bit. And he went into a deep meditation and I kept on saying, "Mom, it's okay, relax, close your eyes." And she couldn't. She was real. They had been together like 67 years. 60
Wow.
So she was quite concerned. We'll say, use that word.
Sure.
And what happened was my dad came out and said, "What happened?" I said, "Well, Dad, you went into a deep meditation." And he never said another word. And with my mom there, I knew that I couldn't say anything else. And I just let it be. About 2 or 3 weeks later, my dad was in hospice. And we knew that was going to happen. We had sort of been keeping him alive. And I went down to see him in the hospice facility. And at that time, I guess everyone spoke to the social worker and decided that I should have some time alone to say goodbye to Dad, because it was not likely that it would happen again. And again, I'm in tears and I'm going to blame it on you guys.
Nope. We didn't do it.
Oh, I just saw I have to be somewhere at 7. Anyway, And he looked at me during this conversation. He said, Carla, continue doing your work. And I smiled. And I said, yeah, Dad, I'm going back to teach today. And he said, no, Carla, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your laughter. I don't think he used as many words as I used to get to that point. And I thought, and he said, it's really good work. And remember, at that time, it was 2004. It was before the Giggle Fest had come into being on its name.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't figured out how important laughter was. But it kind of got me to the point of knowing that I needed to go out and continue laughing and making people laugh. End of story.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I mean, that shows that there is always an impact when you have really supportive fathers and parents. When you have that, it's like you cherish everything. You cherish everything, and you remember everything. And I don't think that's gonna stay with you forever.
Yeah.
And it's meant to stay with you forever. Despite the grief, I think that's there to keep you strong and move forward. But it's really good to have. It just shows the impact a father can have on children, and the love you have between you and you. The love between the children and the father. I mean, it's really impactful, and so that's a beautiful story that will resonate with me and resonate with everybody and resonate with you in your heart forever. So
thank you,
It
Carla.
happened 12 years ago, over 12 years ago now. And I think that story has more meaning to me today than it did at the time.
Yeah.
But
that's how it is sometimes. We don't realize the lessons we learn until we need them right away.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always get it right away. And then something happens and then you're like, oh, that's what they meant. That's what he meant when he said that. Okay, now I get it. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Carla.
We're going
we
to rotate the
you.
love seat a little bit tonight because this is a topic that everybody wants to talk about. If you're just joining us live, welcome to Living Your Purpose. I am Danielle K. Anderson, also known as Danielle the VP. I'm an entrepreneur, interfaith minister, speaker, spiritual counselor, and life coach. And it is my purpose to help people to look good, feel good, find, and walk in their own purpose. And my co-host, as always.
Yes, SJ from Inner Soul Development. That's right, Inner Soul Development. I am a personal life coach and transformational speaker. What I do is I take you off your autopilot, take you off course to your greater self. What we're talking about today is fathers. How not just fathers, but any father figure or any type of male figure that impacted your life and that you appreciate and that you remember. Because of course it is Father's Day, but there are men that have impacted your life that may have not been your biological father, but still it resonated with you and that you take into deep consideration what they did for you. So we're talking about father figures that inspired you and encouraged you, and remembering them and giving that story out. And for those who don't have fathers, who may have passed away suddenly or recently, just remembering what they brought to the table, just remembering how much their energy resonate with you and is moving you forward to living your purpose. I mean, everything that happened in the past with your parents, trust me, that resonates, that you take on that, you remember that, and you filter certain good things out, you filter bad things out, whatever it is, but you continue remembering that person. So we're talking about fathers, and we do this every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, like clockwork.
Like clockwork. So
yes.
This is an open conversation. Please feel free to join us in the love seat. We have one open. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock one seat because a lot of people are trying to get in at the same time. So I'm going to just keep one seat locked and everybody else can kind of rotating. Hey, Kensei.
And share, guys. Share.
Please,
tell your friends to tell a friend
do
to tell
share.
a flock of friends.
If you
Hello,
haven't shared, if you haven't done so already, then do share where all the sharing's done. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of the things. Okay, cool. Hey,
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
I want to first start off by saying, obviously I'm big fans of you guys' show. I think you guys do an amazing job, and you guys have such great chemistry with each other, and it really comes through on screen. And I like the fact that it seems like your guys' purpose is to help people, and I think it's very needed and necessary. So I think I have to start off there.
Thank you. I appreciate that, brother.
Now, talking about this is a subject that's near and dear to me because my father, who died in September of 2013, was my hero. He was, my father was an activist, a guru, a historian, someone who, smart, intelligent, wonderful people look to him for advice and direction and stuff like that. So, so I grew up, looking up to my father. And, if there's anything good about me, it came from my father and my mother as well. And so, in the last 5 years of his life, my father was very ill and, I had to take care of him, right? And, it's funny because my father's like the strongest guy I ever known, and, I was with him in some very, weak physical moments for him. But, as hard as that was, the fact that I got to be around him, after I was an adult, I in a weird way, I cherished those years because, I got, even though, it was very tough, it was, I got to be around him a lot in the end because, when you become an adult, then, you don't deal with your parents as much because you're out there doing your own thing, your life. And I was, right. In some regards, I was glad that I did have that time to be around him constantly. And even though it was very difficult, but I noticed though, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I find myself always quoting him, always
constantly.
I mean, I find myself saying, a lot of his isms all the time, and and the thing about your father being a public person that everyone loved is, everyone wants to. When I run into people who knew him and admired him, the first thing they want to talk about is my father. And when I was grieving, it was I guess I'm always going to be grieving to a certain degree. But when I, the time right after his death, it made it a little difficult because, it was something I was trying to get over. And then people want to, they meant well. But, not always I wanted to have that conversation, with people because I'm dealing with it in the way that I was. But, I could say now, I appreciate it, even more so when people do that, because he was just a tremendous, wonderful person who was very selfless, and he put others before himself, and he always wrote for his family, and I think that one of the reasons why I think I'm that way too is because I definitely took my cues from him. And I had friends who didn't have their fathers in their life, and I couldn't relate, and my father kind of became a surrogate dad for some of my friends, because their fathers weren't around and that, and I, as a black man, I was very fortunate because I had not only my father, but I had so many strong black men around me, my uncles, people that associated with my father. So I always knew what strength was coming from, black male strength was coming from, because that was the environment that I grew up in. And it's unfortunate. A lot of times on Blab, you hear a lot of people, they didn't have that. you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear people talk about it all the time, and you know, and I was, you know, thank God I can't relate to that, but it's unfortunate. But I'll say this: I don't have any children myself, but you know, one thing I try to do is be someone positive for other young brothers and sisters. You know, I always try to be, you know, someone who is a positive person, because I think it's important. Because, like I said, I had so many people, not just my father and my uncles and stuff like that. You know, the whole saying about a village and whatnot.
Right.
And I think that it's important to be something positive in your village, to impart wisdom when you can, because, you know, like I said, what would I be without that? You know, and I think we lose sight on that. It doesn't just have to be your child or your little nephew or cousin or something like that. I think you can do that for just, you know, the village. So
Yeah.
uh, so it's my pleasure, you know, to talk about my father. I talk about him all the time. You know, I find myself doing interviews and I bring my father up, and you know, I just love my father, and of course I love my mother, who's still alive, very much so. But we're talking about dads today, so it's my pleasure to talk about.
So what one trait that you will always have dear to you that your father done? Like what one thing that you will never forget, you will always have, it's always going to be in you. What one trait did your father instill in you that you take with you now?
It's many, but there's one specifically that I picked up on as a young man, and I cherish it. My father was the same person in every situation. He wasn't like, you know, some people, they're one way around a certain group, then they get with another group, they're another way. My father was the same cat, you know. If he was on the street corner, if he was in, you know, some mansion, whatever, my father didn't change. He was consistent in his behavior, and you know, so that was something that I learned is, you know, this, you know, he stood in his truth all the time, and he spoke truth to power, and he wasn't afraid to be the only one on one side of an issue if he believed he was right. And I find myself like that. There's a lot of times where, you know, it'll be 100 against me, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
and that was my father. You know, if he felt like he was right, he, you know, he stood in his truth, and I definitely got that from my pops, because
That's perfect.
my father my father just, when he believed in something, he was passionate, and he fought for what he believed in. And and some people may have seen it a little bit here in this platform with myself, but you know, when I believe in something, I'm very passionate about it, and you know, I don't let public opinion or what you're supposed to do or say dictate, you know, my actions and stuff like that. So I definitely got that from my father. Anybody who knew him would say that was him, you know, and I appreciate that, because, you know, it's hard for some people to do that, and you know, I think I got that strength from him. I know I did.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
That's
I,
fantastic.
I had to learn. I had to learn that later on in life as I grew up. The appreciation of my father, and knowing that, him leaving, there was a reason behind it, and so, we had to, we have that connection after a while, after I got, older, to be able to ask those questions of why and when and how come, and him being transparent to me and saying, this is the reason why I always loved you. This is the reason, and different things. And so, as men, we were more. I was more. He was more transparent with me. I was more transparent with him as far as how I felt, or how he left my mom in the situation. So it was just like I appreciate him now because of the conversation I had with him and the transparency that he did. So, we're starting to lay that foundation now, and I appreciate it. And like I said, all the things that did transpire, those little things that when he was in my life, we did have fun. He did, do what he can at that time. So, whether you have somebody that left, a father that left, you still be able to appreciate your father if you just allow yourself the opportunity to have that conversation. And I was able to have that conversation, and he was able to answer my questions. Now, if he was the kind of person who would be like, didn't have an answer to him, then I'll be like, kind of stuck. But he was able to say, this is what, and very transparent. So I appreciate that.
And I have to say this. I'm so glad that you said that, SJ, because there's so many of us that they have those wounds, from their fathers not being there and such. And, it eats at them. And it some people will keep the cycle going, or some will vow to not be that way. And there's so many people that are so hurt because of their father not being there or being around. And I love the fact that you said that you were able to come to an understanding with him and have a relationship, because you only have one mother, you only have one father. So I can definitely, appreciate that you said, what you're saying. And there's so many people that need to hear your story,
Yeah.
because I was just in the lab the other day, and there was this young brother who, had, so much hate and resentment of his father. And, and to the fact that he wanted to change his name from his dad's name because he's named after his father. And you could just see the hurt in this young man and over his father and the situation they had. And it's very sad. So.
Yeah, that's why when you have a father that's around, like, Danielle and yourself, you have to cherish those. You have to cherish that, because I'm telling you, there are so many. And I was watching Oprah, and it had a bunch of she just had an audience of men at one point, and it was just men in the room, and you see the impact that their not being fathers there impacted their life. And they're older, 40, 50 years old, and they still, them not being around, the father not being around, really impacted their physicals, their business life, their relationships. It just really bothered them, and it really messed up their life purpose, or whatever the case may be. But that's why I always say it's very important if you to try to connect with your father, and if there is love there, and there will always be love there, if you're able to communicate with your father and even have that one-on-one, just to have that one-on-one and get the story or the backstory, it will change your life, because it's like, I know why, like, I got it, I get it, So it's really important to have that kind of relationship and connection and communication.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys for the great service that you guys do here, and thank you for allowing me to share.
Oh,
thank you so much, Kente. We look forward to seeing you later this week.
Yes.
All right now. All right.
Hey, Kente, listen. I don't want to do it. You do it. If you want to put in plug in for your program,
yes, plug in now.
Oh yeah. This Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, we'll be blessed to have both life coach SJ and Danielle Anderson, the mayor of Crazy Town, will be on our show Black Empowerment 365 with me and host Kiana, and we're going real deep. We're going real deep. You guys are gonna find out a lot about these two. We're going back. We might even have some elementary school boyfriends and girlfriends. Yeah, so we're going deep.
Wait a minute.
So
I don't remember that memo.
I ain't ready.
Did you get the memo?
What happened? That was the email.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to talk about a lot of different issues or topics, I should say. But I'm looking forward to it. As you guys know, I admire the work that you guys do. So
thank you so much. We appreciate you, bro.
We do appreciate you. So thank you, and we look forward to it. So everybody, if you love us, then please do support Kente and his program. This is actually a very fantastic program. They talk about real stuff. So follow us on Facebook in our community, and we will we'll be updating you guys on the when, the where, the how, and all of it. Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kente, so much. We are having a great show. I want to acknowledge a lot of the people that came in very recently. Very, very awesome person. Dear friend of mine just came in. I'm really, really excited. And he was actually very excited about this show. So welcome to you. Welcome to Xanadu. Welcome to the Hello Room. Kevin, good to see you. Lots of folks in here. Thank you so much.
Share.
So we're talking about, please do share where all the sharing is done. We're talking about celebrating dads. Today is Father's Day here in the U.S., June 19th, 2016. And so we're just sharing our stories, and it may not be your actual biological dad, but it could be positive male role models and father figures, uncles, granddads, whatever. We just want to take time to honor those men who were influential in our life and made positive impacts on us. And sometimes negative situations turn into positives for you. It takes a good deal of patience and perspective to be able to do that. But it's important to recognize it, and if nothing else, be able to acknowledge that person for being able to teach you how not to be.
Exactly. and we have a lot of good stories. Like we just heard from Carla and her story with her, and we just heard from my homeboy Ken. We understand how important. He even called his father a hero. You know, so there's a lot of heroes that we have that, have left us early or is still with us. And then we have those who have left and now are just starting to grow a connection with their father at this point. Those fathers who are in jail or who may be incarcerated. So there's a lot of stories that we have, but at the end of the day, it's very important for us to understand the importance of a male figure in your life, to be able to be there, to be that support, to be that foundation, to be that person that you can go to when you need to. And then my foundation, as I said, was my mom. She's the strongest, illest woman in the world because she was able to take a negative and turn it into a positive. So I love her, and that's my father. That's my father, who I deem father, and my connection with my biological father is growing, and we're starting to lay that foundation. So for those who want to come in and join, come in the love.
Come in the love seat. I will tell you how.
Yes.
Marcus asked, how do you join in? All right, you see the screen. There's 4 boxes. One of those boxes has a button on it. It says call in. If you can do that, you click on it and then allow your camera and all that type of stuff.
Yes, and you could come in and share your story. We'd love to hear you guys' stories about your fathers or any father figure that has influenced you, inspired you, made you become a better individual, groomed you, or just made you think of life differently. So definitely, we have that love seat available.
Yeah.
Available.
That was. Here's a question. You asked Kente, what would you think one of the most the one thing that you take from your
one
father?
trait, yes.
The one positive. Yes. Let me ask you this:
yes.
What do you think is one of the negative traits that you take from your dad? Look good. You can do both, positive and negative.
Okay. Negative is he was not ready to be with one woman.
Okay.
So he was a.
Do we have to have another set?
Yeah, he wasn't. He was a bad boy. He was a bad boy.
You better not let Miss Thing in the background hear you say that.
Yeah, I know, but
that's
what you asked me what the negative was, and you said he was unfaithful. He was very unfaithful.
Okay.
And the positive is that he he really liked to be around people. He was a very people person, and he wanted us, like, he would take us to barbecues. We would definitely have a 4th of July barbecue. He needed to be around people, because he had a large family too.
Okay.
So, he just had us go, to every function that his family had. And so he liked that camaraderie around people. Like, he liked people, but he was just very unfaithful. Can't help it. I think, and what's so funny is that I didn't develop that trait because I didn't see it, and my mom didn't want me to see it, but I knew it was there because kids know.
Yeah. Marcus, welcome.
I don't even know how that happened, but what's up?
Miss Victory. Because I have a magic button that shows me that you're trying to come in, so I just let
what's going on?
Welcome. So glad you made it finally.
I tried to do the computer, it wasn't working. Then I tried to do the phone joint, and yeah.
It happens. Sometimes this platform is a little shaky. It's still actually in beta, but we make it do what we need it to do.
Exactly.
So
hey, my nose looks huge on this joint.
Then get your back up. Just back up.
There we go.
He's so foolish. Okay. So do you have anything you want to share on the topic of dads? And happy Father's Day, by the way. I need to start out with that. Happy Father's Day.
Why? Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
So what we sharing?
Well,
what you want to know?
Dads, and so if you don't, because you're a dad, I think you're like the first dad to come on here. So why don't you tell us what you love about being a dad?
That I have, I guess, some say so in how this young man is going to be. I like the fact that it's like I'm how do you say it? I guess I'm reliving my childhood per se through him. Mine wasn't. I didn't have a great one, so I take it as, even though he wasn't great or he wasn't around, I still learn how to be a good dad because I'm just doing the opposite of what he did. So, so I get to, I guess, get the things that I wanted by giving it to him. So
that's what's up.
That makes sense.
So
so he flipped it. He flipped the negative.
Right.
He flipped the negative, the same thing as I, and put it into a positive. Do you think that you will ever get that? First of all, is your father still alive?
Nah. My father died.
He passed.
5-6 years ago. So
okay.
Is there anything that you?
We made amends, but by then it's still I was 28, so it's like at 28, it's really, I'm already in the mindset like I don't really need you. I forgive you, whatever, but I don't need you. So it is what it is.
Right. But you were at least able to have those conversations, right? And that's
yeah.
That's what I want to give to people now, because there's still a lot of bitter people, or people who have a certain amount of bitterness because of their relationships with their parents, not just their dads, but maybe their mom or whatever, and because of situations that they didn't have control over. And I understand that, but if you have the opportunity to at least reach out and ask the questions why or how or all of that, and try to come to some kind of understanding, then take that time, because as a person who has lost both of their parents, at a young age, it is so important to have conversation, because you never know how long you do have.
Because that helped
at
me.
least make the effort, because if
that
it
helped
ends
me.
up yeah, you have to at least make the effort. You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to hold hands and go to the park and get pushed on the swings, but at least, make an effort for that connection, at least to have an understanding. So anyway, yeah, really, you guys, if you have a strained relationship, if you could just don't take the time that you do have for granted. If you have, made your peace with it and all of that, then cool. If not, at least try, because you don't want the time to go by and end up that you don't have an opportunity, and then for the rest of your life say, I wish I'd had. I wish I
Hey,
did.
the funny thing was, I was arguing, not arguing, but I was going back and forth with a couple bitter Bettys this week because they was talking about their deadbeat baby daddies or whatever. And I'm sitting here like, dog, let that go or whatever. And I used my mom as a point. I was like, my mom had every reason to be a bitter Betty.
Right.
And like when my father was in the hospice for like the last 2 months of his life, my mother was there with him every day. And she would like force the issue. She was like, yo, come see y'all dad. Woo, 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 woo. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you was left with 5 kids. So it's like if she could do it, then why can't I do it? Like I'm only one life that he affected, but he affected 5 kids and her. So if she could be like that, then why can't I? So I mean, we gotta learn to put our feelings aside, and you know what I'm saying, for the greater good of ourselves. Because at the end of the day, it affect me. To this day, I mean, high school, and like Kenny D. Like Kenny D was so good to me, and I used to treat him like crap because I had an issue with male authority. So it's just like it affects us. It affects us.
Let's give a little background.
Man, so whatever.
People don't understand. Marcus and I actually went to high school together. And the gentleman he's referring to is Kenneth Dixon, who was actually an amazing teacher. He taught music, band, and ended up being a dean of students before he left. But he was actually a really good guy. He was,
I treated him like crap.
He is a very positive role model, and he takes time to, young man, pull your pants up, take your hats off, and look at how you acting, and look at, how people are looking at you. It may not matter to you how they feel, but it matters to you. You know what I'm saying? It's going to matter how people react to you. So he was a really good person, and so you treat him
he's a really great. I say crap, but it was just like, I mean, I got an attitude, and it's just like I wasn't nice to him, and not nice, but like I wasn't respectful to him like I should have been, because like you said, he was that type, man. I bumped into him. I've seen him since, but the first time I bumped into him after high school, he was shocked to see me. He said, "Hey man, I didn't think you was gonna make it," and I was just like,
wow.
like damn, like for real. He was just like, but that's the type of person I was being to him or whatever. But it wasn't against him. It was issues that I'm dealing with myself subconsciously. I'm like, man, my own father don't want me. So who are you to tell me to do something? He don't want me. I know you don't want me. And it's just like, it's stuff like that. Like, that's the stuff that we carry on. And we think we not carrying that stuff on, but that's exactly what we doing.
Yeah, absolutely right.
It's like a defense mechanism, almost like it's almost something that's already in you. Like, you already have that. Can you imagine having that's a lot to say, my father didn't want me. Like, that's a heavy thing to bear. And we all may feel that way. I think I may have felt that way at one point. But to get that release that I did want you. To be wanted is very important. Like, to be wanted, period, is very important in a child's life. So to hear Marcus say that at that time and him reacting toward that shows how much void or how much a male figure is in a person's life. A father, period, or a parent, period. So that's why it's like to say that. you always want to be wanted, especially by your parents. You always want that, because you look to them for the next step, you know.
Right.
So it's really
none of us
important
asked to be here. They brought us here, you know. So,
but if the father
got
is not right, I believe that there's a lot of you can easily be a father. I mean, you can easily make a baby, but that doesn't make you a father. Okay, so if you're in a child's life, then that's great, that's wonderful, that's beautiful. But if you're not in a child's life, and you're not taking the responsibility to help that mother in the duties of that child, then that mother is the father and the mother at the same time. Period. You have to be able to. You can't just claim. You just can't claim a child and say, I'm the father because you made him. You have to be in that person's life. You have to be able to mold that person, inspire that person, be around that person, grow that person toward the journey that they need to go, because it doesn't work no other way.
Right. Okay. It is time for us to go, because I do have to edit. Well, we don't have to go. We don't have to go. We are going to stop recording. What we have, Marcus, since you're new, we have what's called the after blab. So that's when we go off the air. We stop recording. We can still continue the conversation. We can let our hair down, or in my case, let our hair up, and just, you know,
my hair is already
have
up.
Have a more relaxed conversation. So, Marcus, I love you, but I'm going to kick you out of the seat real quick, and you can come back when we come. Okay? All right. All right. Okay, so thank you everyone once again for joining us for Living Your Purpose. I'm so happy that you could have come and listened and watched. And if you're watching or listening on a replay on SoundCloud or YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you more than you know. If you'd like to learn, if you are new to our program and you'd like to learn more, please do go to our website at lypshow.com. and click on connect, and you can find us everywhere we are. We have a Facebook community, which is wonderful. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram and SoundCloud. We are on YouTube and Periscope. We're everywhere. So just go to there and click, and you can connect with us that way. You can learn more about myself or SJ. You can send requests if you want to have us come and speak or counsel or whatever it is that you need. Just call
we
us,
will do it.
Contact us. We are here for you. So that having been said, next week I believe we have an interview with a special guest.
We do. Yes.
That's the plan.
That's what's going on.
That is the plan. But tune in next week.
Yes.
We are going to be here 6:00 Eastern Standard Time. My name is Danielle K. Anderson. I am an entrepreneur, interfaith minister, spiritual counselor, life coach, and speaker, and it is my purpose to help people to look good, feel good, find, and walk in their own purpose. And my co-host this weekend, just about every week,
SJ from Inner Soul Development. That's right, Inner Soul Development. I'm a personal life coach, transformational speaker. What I do is I get you off your autopilot, take you off course to your greater self. I make sure you understand that life is to be controlled, and that life should not control you. I thank you guys so much, and we want you to have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Sunday.
Peace.